Hello everyone, I'm 10th Dr. Matt, and in this first edition of my Kilgrave Cosplay series, I'm going to be showing you how to put together the police station variant, which is my personal favorite. So let's get started. In my opinion, the police station variant will probably be one of his most recognizable outfits since it features that really quirky and unique purple suit. So let's talk about that first. Screen-worn suit was by Paul Smith from his Bjard line, featuring 2-button closure, peaked lapels, and straight flapped pockets. Now if you go to Paul Smith's website, you will find many different colors of the Bjard suit, featuring both peaked and notched lapels, which look a lot like the cut of this suit. However, you will not find the purple one because it was last season, which is probably just as well because these, brand new from Paul Smith's site, come with a price tag of $1,995. Quite a bit more than probably most of us are willing to spend on a suit. That being said, however, you can find some really spectacular deals on Paul Smith stuff on eBay, and I was extremely lucky in that department, so I actually ended up with a purple Paul Smith Bjard suit for a much lower price tag, and this is, I would say, probably 90% screen accurate. So if we take a look at this suit, we can see that the cut is identical to the original one that was worn. The only minor differences are basically that mine has some pucker stitching along the edges of the lapels and pocket flaps, whereas David's had a regular flat stitch. And his, you can see the lining very briefly in a scene there, and his lining is a polka dot, which kind of, I think is probably like this little piece of the pocket here, whereas my lining is tricolor. As you can see, we got blue, gray in the center, and sort of a slate gray on this side. But, I mean, lining is lining. How many people are going to see the lining of your jacket? So definitely keep your eyes on eBay for any other Bjard suits coming up for sale, but if you're looking for a lower budget option, there are a couple of decent purple suits actually on Amazon for a good price that will look the part. These suits on Amazon are made from a polyester material, so they're quite a bit cheaper, with a price tag of around $150. Generally they have notched lapels instead of peaks, but the color, the shade of the purple looks quite nice, and so I think that people will have no trouble recognizing you as Kilgrave if you got one of those. Also, it's worth mentioning that if you do want Magnolia Clothiers to make you one of these suits, they will commission one for you. I'm not totally sure of the price tag, but I would guess that it's somewhere around the same price of a tenant suit. Indy has stated that he is working on sourcing a purple sharkskin wool to use. He hasn't found one yet, but at this current time he does have a purple gabardine fabric that he uses to make his 11th Doctor vests. Next, let's talk about the shirt. Now, the screen-worn shirt was identified by Driver NJ from Instagram as this London Floral navy shirt, again from Paul Smith. This shirt had an original price tag of about $300, and again is no longer available from Paul Smith as it was last season. You are able to see at least some photos of it if you check out list.com, where they kind of aggregate a whole bunch of fashion sites into one central hub where you can search for stuff, which is really handy. So sadly, I was not able to find one of these, but I definitely am keeping my eye out for one. So in the meantime, I will show you what I got for an alt. So this is my alt shirt. It's by a brand called Stone Rose, and it's quite a nice alt if you ask me. The color blue is, I think, maybe just a touch brighter than I would like, but it's really quite a nice shade. The floral designs are a little bit big, but they work nicely. They're mostly blacks and purples with just tiny little bits of green in there, which actually has a nice little contrast. Now this I found at my local Romani Clothiers store. I don't know if you have them around you, but I think they are a chain, so you may be able to find one. They have some very cool stuff there. They always have some very stylish shirts and that sort of thing. This shirt does feature some cool little quirks as well, like purple buttons, and there's a little bit of a purpley burgundy corduroy stripe underneath the collar and the cuffs. So let's put this on and get a look at it with the suit. Alright, so as you can see, it's quite a nice shade of blue, and the blues actually go really well with this purple suit, so it works out pretty nicely. My one minor gripe with this shirt is the collar shape. As you can see, mine is a very widespread sort of angled back collar, whereas the original Paul Smith shirt had more of a somewhere in between a spread collar and a point collar. So when I do put a tie on with this, the collar looks a little bit funny, but it's just a minor thing and works for me. So if you're looking for alts, basically the criteria is it has to be a navy shirt with some flora on it. The only problem with these floral shirts is that they do seem to be expensive. This one was priced at $179. It seems like any of these sort of fancy floral print shirts are generally at least $100 or above. So if you're not looking to spend that kind of cash, you could of course always go for just a standard plain or textured navy blue dress shirt, and it's going to have a much friendlier price tag. Next, let's talk about the tie. Now this thing drove me nuts for a few weeks just trying to identify it. I was assuming that it was made by Paul Smith, since basically the rest of David's entire outfit from this scene was from Paul Smith, but I was wrong. I actually was able to send a message to Stephanie Maslansky, who was the costume designer for Jessica Jones, through her website, and to my pleasant surprise, she responded via email almost immediately actually, and told me that the tie was actually by John Varvatos. So after finding out that crucial information, I did a quick search on list.com, and there it was, and there were a few left. So I actually was able to snag an original tie. Now this tie didn't have any kind of a specific name, just the color was called Deep Purple, and if you look closely you'll notice that the designs inside of these dots appear to be the V from the John Varvatos logo. So this tie was $75, which for a designer like John Varvatos, not bad, all things considered. There are not any left in the purple color, unfortunately. There may be some left in blue, which is pretty neat, which would also kind of, I think, match pretty nicely. But the good news is, Magnoli was able to snag an original as well, so to my knowledge, he will be producing a nearly perfect replica in the near future. Now, if you're looking for an alternate tie, there are millions of options. But personally, after looking at hundreds of ties, the one that I liked the most was from the tiebar.com, and it was called Speckled Eggplant. So this was actually the tie that I had picked up first before I found out anything about the John Varvatos, and as you can see, the colors are pretty similar, and the pattern, while this one is more of a square pattern, it does still look the part, especially from a distance, and the color matches nicely with the suit, and the tie was only 19 bucks, so you can't really get better than that. But as I said, there are millions of options for purple ties that will match nicely with this outfit, so really it's up to you and what you like and what you think looks best. Next, let's talk about the vest, or if you're across the pond, the waistcoat. And while I'm still not 100% sure, I'm probably 95% sure that the original vest was by Paul Smith. Through a couple of other tweets and things, Stephanie Maslansky had mentioned that most, if not all, of David's clothes were either from Paul Smith, Ted Baker, or Burberry. And looking at the available vests from Paul Smith and Ted Baker and Burberry, the Paul Smith from the Biard line was absolutely almost a dead-on match. What's still available now is almost exactly it. Now the vest that David wore had a pin dot or micro dot sort of texture. It had some puckered stitching around the edges, which I think is pretty cool that my suit has that as well. And it had a 5-button closure. So if we take a quick look at one of the currently available waistcoats from Paul Smith's Biard line, it looks almost identical. The only difference being that the current ones have a 4-button closure rather than 5. However, it's probably just as well because, again, if you buy one of these brand new from Paul Smith's website, it comes with a price tag of around $500 for a vest, which I'm sure it looks great, but that's a little bit too steep for me. So as usual, you can of course keep your eye on eBay for any originals that may pop up, but in the meantime, I believe I found a pretty awesome alternate, and it only cost me $35. My alt vest is by the brand Sean John, and this was found on eBay, but there are a couple of sellers I saw on Amazon that had the same vest as well. This is called a diamond textured vest. It is a 5-button closure, and one of the things that I did notice, this was actually my second vest that I bought. My first one, the buttons were quite a bit closer together, and the closure didn't come to a point quite as high. It came to a point probably around here, so it didn't look quite right. I wasn't very happy with it until I found this. And I think my favorite feature about this is that it has the puckered stitching along the edges, and the diamond texture, while obviously it is a diamond instead of dots, from a normal speaking distance, it looks almost exactly like the original, in my opinion. So as with the tie, there are hundreds and hundreds of possible alternate vests available. Certainly you can take a look at charity shops and things, get one for a couple dollars, or you can, I'm sure that they still have these Sean John vests for $35 on eBay, and that includes shipping, by the way. The main things that you want to look for are a higher closure with 5 buttons that have a pretty decent spacing between them. If you can manage to get something textured, that's great. Puckered stitching, awesome. Just remember to keep that bottom button undone. So that about covers it for the major parts of the suit, so now let's talk about some shoes and accessories. I think it is worth noting here that unlike his role as the 10th Doctor, David did wear a belt as Kilgrave, and it's hard to see it, but basically it's a matte black dress belt with a silver buckle. And personally, I like the brushed look better than like a shiny chrome belt buckle that would get fingerprinty, but really it's just a belt. How many people are going to look at your belt? So this is my dress belt that I already had, and it works great. Next, the pocket square. Now this I do think is an important accessory to have, as Kilgrave basically always had a pocket square on throughout the show. Lots of different ones with cool designs and that sort of thing. And the one in this scene, if we look really closely at this photo, you can see it's a sort of a light cornflower powdery blue color with some type of dotted design on it. It's not a typical polka dot, they're pretty spaced apart, and to my eye they look almost to be like a purple or maybe navy blue sun shape or something. It's like a round shape with some spiky edges. I don't know. I can't identify the thing. I have no idea who made it. I would guess it's probably Paul Smith, maybe Ted Baker. I haven't been able to find anything even remotely similar with that sort of a pattern on it. So what I decided to go for my alt was the Aquamarine solid twill pocket square from the tie bar. So here it is. The color looks great. Obviously it doesn't have the little dotted pattern on it, but the shade of blue I think is nearly perfect. I mean, if we look at this side-by-side photo, I think it looks pretty good. And the best part is the price tag on this was $10. Now, Kilgrave wears his pocket square with the puff style, and which is good news for us because that's the easiest fold to do. It's not even really a fold. Basically, you're gonna just take your pocket square like this, pick it up by the center, like so, squeeze down the side, and just fold that bottom up a little bit, and then tuck it in your pocket. And there you go, puff style pocket square. Next we have the shoes, and like everything else, Kilgrave has about 1,000 different pairs of shoes throughout the show, and in this episode you get very, very brief glances at them in very dim lighting, but from what I can gather, they appear to be a standard black Oxford style shoe. Now, if you're not familiar with the different styles of dress shoe, basically the Oxford style has a more rounded toe. It's not pointed, it's not square, it's more rounded. A lot of them have that little design over the top about midway up your foot. The only little bit of a quirky thing about his shoes that you can see in this scene is that the sole seems to have like a beige stripe through it, which is common in many dress shoes. So these are mine. These are black Oxford style dress shoes that I already had. You can see they don't have the beige stripe through the sole, but I could really care less about that because dress shoes are expensive, and after spending all the money that I did on all these other parts, I didn't really want to have to buy another pair of dress shoes. You will notice though that I have these really nice purple shoelaces, which I think is a nice accent to the shoes. While we can't see David's shoelaces in this particular episode or scene, we can see when he's outside the cafe that he does have purple shoelaces, so I thought that it would just be a really cool touch to have that they match well with the suit, and I think they just look really cool. Now these shoelaces are actually from Paul Smith. They don't call them purple, they called them Damson, I believe was the color, and they are $4, which includes worldwide shipping, so all in all, that's probably the cheapest thing you can find on Paul Smith's website, and they are the perfect length, and it says right on there that they are good for shoes with 4 or 5 eyelets. Mine have 4, so they worked out nicely. Now, if you've got shoes that have more than 4 or 5 eyelets, there is an eBay seller that has about 1 billion different colors of dress laces that are longer than these, and they're about $1.50 a piece. Here they are. I actually bought these first, and but I found out after the fact that they were too long. So I would say that these are probably good for shoes with, you know, maybe 8 or 10 eyelets. Certainly they would look great on black dress boots, but the color is almost exactly the same, so that is another nice alt that you could get. Now, as for socks, I'm just wearing plain old black dress socks because I don't have any of those cool funky ones that have purple designs in them and stuff, but I think that would be a cool feature as well. We can, again, in that same scene from outside the cafe, you can see that he is wearing some of those funky style socks. We can't see them in the police station scene, but we can assume that he's wearing something similar, so if you find a pair of those, I think that would be another nice touch as well. Now, last but not least, we have the watch. Now, the original watch was identified by the Ginger Doctor as an Alangat Utzurna, and I apologize if I just butchered that German name, but basically these are very, very expensive watches that go from anywhere from $20,000 to a couple of $1 million. Makes sense that Kilgrave would have one of these because he could just get a watchmaker to give him one for free, but naturally we cosplayers generally don't have that kind of cash lying around. The good news is, alternates for this watch are very, very easy to find. Basically what you're looking for is a multi-function analog watch with a gold face and a brown band. I decided to go for one from Stuhrling Original, which this one was from Amazon for $103, and I think it looks great. So we can take a look here. I think the color of the band and the style of that sort of cracked leather look looks just like it. The gold face looks great. The multi-function, his actually has 4. You can see one of them is a little bit lighter than the other 3, but all in all, I think this is a fantastic dress watch. It looks great. $100 actually isn't bad for a nice watch like this, and I wear it all the time to work now, so I really think this was a great investment, but if you are looking for one for a lower budget, there are plenty of options available. You just have to look around and see what you like. So that covers it for the outfit. Now the last thing that you're going to need to complete your Kilgrave cosplay is the hair. So if you haven't seen it already, I do have a Kilgrave hair tutorial, which I'm going to link right up there, so please feel free to check that out. Now I have to say that I really, really love this cosplay. I think it's very sharp, very dapper looking, and I was really pleasantly surprised with the color of the purple suit. I was a little bit afraid that it was going to look kind of jokery and look silly, but really I like the purple. I think it looks great, and I'm definitely going to be wearing this suit to formal events and things. And I'm itching for a con to debut this cosplay. I'm really, really looking forward to that. So if you guys are looking to buy any of these items that I talked about in this video, I am going to have links for most, if not all of them, in the description box below, so feel free to check that out. And that about does it for this first episode of my Kilgrave cosplay videos. I definitely am going to be having more of these in the future as I collect clothes for other variants, so very much looking forward to that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you found it helpful, and as always, thank you so much for watching.